Babes, we have seen naked high towers, secret pregnancies, and dragons treated like literal petting zoo ponies.
A literal roadside attraction.
I cannot even handle it. Westeros is in shambles, you guys. Welcome back to the snark side.
We are so back. And it is an absolute disaster class in medieval management out there right now.
Truly. Babes, welcome back. We love you, we see you, and honestly, absence really does make the heart grow fonder because we miss the Snark Squad so much.
We really did. And we came prepared today.
We did. We have our signature blackberry bourbon smashes on deck, and babes, they are absolutely incredible today.
So good. Highly recommend making one if you're listening at home.
Cheers to you all, and a massive toast to us just surviving the first few days back to reality after vacation.
Cheers to that, because honestly, the post-vacation spiral is a unique form of psychological warfare.
It is violent.
It really is. Dropping a human being straight from a sun lounger into a Tuesday morning commute should be classified as a violation of basic labor rights.
I am officially petitioning the government. Adulthood needs a mandatory recovery week after every trip.
Like a decompression chamber for scuba divers, but for corporate life.
Exactly. You need a vacation to detox from the vacation. But we have to talk about the suitcase phenomenon.
Oh, the physical monument to your denial.
Why is unpacking a suitcase infinitely harder than packing it? When I pack, I am a strategic visionary.
You really are. You had spreadsheets.
I did. I have a mood board in my head. I'm rolling fabrics. I'm utilizing the negative space in my packing cubes. I am an architect of my own leisure.
Right, because packing is an act of optimism. You are projecting this future where you are relaxed and cultured.
Yes. But when I get home, that same suitcase just lays open on my bedroom floor for like 5 to 7 business days.
Only 5 to 7. You're being generous.
Okay, fine. 2 weeks. It just stares at me like a rotting corpse of my happiness.
Because unpacking is an act of grief. You are confronting the mundane reality of your present existence.
It's so depressing. You're trying to reintegrate into normal routines, and you realize that vacation brain doesn't just evaporate overnight.
No, it really doesn't.
Yeah.
You're sitting there at work, literally staring into someone's mouth, operating heavy machinery.
Which is terrifying.
It is.
Yeah.
And your prefrontal cortex is still mentally at a swim-up bar ordering a mojito.
100%. And speaking of operating heavy machinery, we owe the Snark Squad our dentist diaries for the week.
We do. Returning to our respective clinics was an absolute gauntlet.
A trench war.
Yeah.
What was your high and low for the week? Give me the best patient interaction first.
Okay, so the best one was actually a masterclass in community building. I have this sweet elderly gentleman patient.
Oh, I love him already.
He's the best. And he remembered a passing comment I made like 6 months ago about trying to perfect my homemade salsa recipe.
Stop. Did he bring you something?
He showed up to his appointment with a pristine heirloom tomato he grew himself, wrapped in a paper towel like it was a Fabergé egg.
My heart cannot physically handle that level of purity. I would cry.
It was wonderful. It's those small acts of hyper-specific kindness that just completely restore my faith in humanity.
You really do.
But the funniest moment was a massive test of my professional composure.
Oh, no. What happened?
I had a patient who decided that the exact moment their mouth was packed with cotton rolls, a suction tube, and a bite block.
The worst possible time to speak.
The absolute worst time. That was the ideal moment to give me a highly detailed, deeply passionate lecture on local municipal zoning laws.
The gauze filibuster, I know it well.
They sounded like a muffled walrus trying to hold a town hall meeting.
Why do they do that? The moment the jaw is mechanically propped open, they feel this overwhelming urge to narrate their most complex life theories.
It's a captive audience phenomenon. What about you? What was your funniest moment?
Okay, so I had a teenager who was profoundly numbed on his lower quadrant for a filling.
Oh, a classic setup for disaster.
Exactly. He insisted he was totally fine, confidently picked up a paper cup to take a sip of water, and just poured the entire thing directly down the front of his own shirt.
Just zero proprioception.
None. And he looked at me with this profound betrayal in his eyes, like I had personally manipulated the physics of the water.
The total lack of sensory feedback always leads to tragedy. But what was your biggest hurdle coming back?
The physical endurance, for sure. My posture after a week of lounging was entirely liquidated.
Oh, the dental hunch is real.
I was hovering over a massively complex root canal on hour 6, and my lower back was screaming at a very specific frequency of agony.
It's young person's game, honestly.
It is. But I did have one thing that reminded me why I actually love the trenches.
Tell me. We need the positivity.
It happened on Thursday. I had a patient who had been terrified of the dentist for a decade, like full dental trauma.
Shaking in the chair.
Shaking, leaping before he even picked up a mirror. So we took it incredibly slow, communicated every single step, got the work done. And when she looked in the hand mirror at the end,
Let me guess. Total relief.
she burst into tears of pure relief. She gave me a massive hug on the way out. It just recentered me, you know? We actually heal people.
That is the anchor right there. That is what makes the physical toll worth it.
What was your anchor this week?
I was doing a significant cosmetic restoration for someone who had actively hidden their smile in family photos for 5 years.
Oh, wow. 5 years.
Yeah, they basically just kept their mouth completely shut in every picture. Handing them that mirror and watching their entire facial posture change, just lighting up is a powerful thing.
It really is, even if we have to navigate the zoning law walruses to get there.
Exactly. And babes, after we survived our respective clinics, we basically dragged ourselves out of there.
We did. We met up, walked over to the rooftop of my apartment building, and just watched the sunset over the city.
It was so necessary.
Yeah.
Just catching up, letting the clinical adrenaline metabolize out of our systems.
Appreciating the absolute luxury of slowing down once in a while. It was a whole vibe.
We were sipping our drinks, looking out over the skyline.
And for about 20 glorious minutes, we felt like completely unbothered, wealthy penthouse socialites.
We were untouchable.
Untouchable, right up until the push notification hit my phone, reminding me that rent was due in 3 days.
The illusion shattered with the efficiency of a guillotine.
It really did. The crushing weight of feudal capitalism settled right back onto our shoulders.
But before reality fully dragged us under, we did spiral into our newest collective obsession up there on the roof.
Oh my gosh, yes. Book Talk has completely hijacked our algorithms again.
It is fully back. The fantasy romance genre right now is operating on a level of world building that requires a corkboard and red string.
I am feral for these plot lines. I am convinced that fantasy readers secretly possess the most robust imaginations of any demographic on the planet.
Oh, without a doubt.
Like, we are visualizing complex elemental magic systems,
Yeah.
mapping out fictional topographies, and memorizing dynastic political hierarchies before we've even had our morning coffee.
There's a deep psychological utility to it, though.
What do you mean?
Well, watching the medieval chaos unfold on our screens every Sunday is absolutely fueling the urge to consume more fantasy literature.
Oh, 100%.
You watch a political assassination orchestrated by a dragon rider on TV, and suddenly your brain requires 700 pages about a morally gray shadow wielder dismantling a corrupt empire.
It's a very specific feedback loop. You need the shadow daddies to cope with the reality TV trauma.
Exactly. But it did prompt a very sobering debate while we were on the roof.
It did. We asked ourselves the ultimate question. Would either of us actually survive a single week in Westeros?
And the conclusion was immediate and unanimous.
Absolutely not.
We would not survive the opening credits.
We would be statistically insignificant casualties on day one. I would be gone.
You really would.
Babes, I can't even confront my own unpacked suitcase. Do you think I have the emotional fortitude to survive a medieval winter without central heating and a designated therapist?
You'd catch a draft and it would be over.
I would succumb to a minor bacterial infection by Tuesday afternoon.
I wouldn't even make it to the bacterial infection stage.
No, you'd be executed.
Completely. I would inevitably deploy a sarcastic comment in the presence of a minor lord with an inferiority complex, and I'd be rotting in the black cells before the sun went down.
You would insult the wrong dude's tunic and they'd take your head. We are simply not biologically engineered for that era.
No, we were built for air conditioning and iced lattes.
But babes, enough about our own kingdoms. Let's head to Westeros, where therapy has never existed and absolutely everyone needs it.
Let's pull the lens all the way back and look at what is happening in the Reach. We have to dissect the mess at Tumbleton.
The occupation of Tumbleton. Let's get into it.
So the episode opens with this very deliberate shot of a rabbit on the periphery of the town.
Yes, just a cute little bunny.
Right, and in literature, a rabbit is a classic motif representing new beginnings, fertility, or innocence. And then an hour later, the episode closes with Lord Ormond Hightower declaring, "And now we begin."
Ugh, it's such a structural bookend. The cinematography is giving poetry, but the reality on the ground is an absolute nightmare.
Complete nightmare. Tumbleton is a thriving merchant town. They don't have towering defensive battlements or a standing army.
No, they are the seat of House Footley, whose official house words are literally tread lightly here.
Which is just an incredible, agonizing George R.R. Martin pun, considering what is happening to them.
It's so dark. Lord Ormond Hightower has marched 15,000 armed men right into their streets.
And from a purely tactical military standpoint, what Ormond is executing here is highly strategic, albeit a complete violation of whatever passes for the Geneva Conventions in this universe.
Right, because he's not just camping outside.
Exactly. He isn't setting up a military encampment outside the city walls. He is billeting his 15,000 soldiers directly inside the private homes, taverns, and businesses of the civilian population.
I want to push back on the idea that this is brilliant, though, because it feels incredibly short-sighted. You can't just drop 15,000 hungry armed men into a merchant town and expect the local economy to absorb it. You're going to create a famine.
Well, war creates famine regardless.
Yeah, but if the merchants flee or starve, Ormond's own army starves. He's building a human shield, sure, but he is also building a massive mutiny risk.
I see your point regarding the supply chain logistics, but you have to look at the immediate aerial threat.
The dragons.
Yes. Ormond knows Rhaenyra possesses the ultimate air superiority. By weaving his ground troops seamlessly into the fabric of the civilian population, he fundamentally neutralizes Rhaenyra's greatest weapon.
Because she can't burn them without burning the town.
Precisely. If Rhaenyra orders her dragons to incinerate Ormond's army, she is forced to incinerate thousands of her own innocent loyalists in the process.
And she actually voices that exact fear later. She says, "They'd name me Maegor Returned."
Maegor the Cruel.
Exactly. The Targaryen king who famously locked the doors of the Sept of Remembrance and burned hundreds of the Faith Militant alive. It defined his legacy as a tyrant.
And Rhaenyra is already fighting a massive PR war just to prove a woman can rule.
She absolutely cannot afford the optics of mass civilian casualties. Ormond has weaponized her own morality against her. He's taken a whole town hostage.
And the way Ormond asserts his authority is a fascinating study in power dynamics. We get the introduction to James Norton playing Lord Ormond.
Oh my God, the introduction.
It is entirely unhinged.
Unhinged is an understatement. Lord and Lady Footley are summoned to complain about their town being forcefully occupied, and Ormond takes this high-stakes political meeting while casually lounging naked in their ancestral bathtub.
He's just getting the scrub down.
My jaw was on the floor. He just stands up, full frontal, water cascading off of him, casually toweling his shoulders while asserting total dominance.
It's an aggressive, calculated power move.
He is standing dripping wet in their own home, calmly informing them that their sworn loyalty to Rhaenyra makes them traitors to the crown.
It strips away all the traditional trappings of civilization and diplomacy.
Literally strips them away.
The Footleys are fully clothed, clad in their noble finery, yet they are entirely powerless. Ormond is stripped bare, completely vulnerable in a physical sense, yet he holds the absolute power of life and death in that room.
It establishes exactly who he is. Deeply comfortable in his own skin, highly eccentric, and viewing everyone else as fundamentally beneath him.
He views them as beneath him, and he literally thinks they smell bad.
Yes, the weird odor obsession. Alicent mentions to Rhaenyra later that her cousin Ormond is highly sensitive to smells.
And we see it in action.
We do.
Yeah.
He is constantly holding this little metal spherical object to his nose, a pomander filled with incense, cloves, and herbs.
This ties into the historical medieval miasma theory.
Which is what, exactly?
The belief that diseases were carried by bad air or foul odors. But for Ormond, it is an extreme manifestation of his elitism.
Like peasant cooties.
Essentially, yes. He is using that pomander to physically filter the world around him. He cannot stand the metaphorical or literal stench of the commoners or anyone he deems morally impure.
He is creating a scented barrier between his noble blood and the peasantry. He's walking around a war zone, huffing medieval essential oils.
It is peak privilege.
It really is. But in the middle of all this toxic behavior, we finally meet Daemon Targaryen.
Alicent's youngest son finally enters the narrative.
My heart absolutely broke for him. He is just acting as a glorified squire, standing there with a tiny towel for his weird, naked uncle.
And the visual reveal of Daemon is massive.
The hair.
He has auburn hair. This is a profound departure from the source material, where he possesses the classic silver gold Targaryen hair.
I was spiraling over this genetic change, but when you unpack it, it makes so much terrifying sense.
It has massive political implications.
Huge, because the Greens, led by Otto and Alicent, have spent the last decade trying to delegitimize Rhaenyra's claim to the throne by pointing out that her sons, Jace, Luke, and Joffrey have dark hair.
Right, which they claim proves they are Harwin Strong's bastards.
Exactly. If Alicent, the paragon of virtue, suddenly gives birth to a Targaryen prince who also lacks the silver hair, it completely shatters their own foundational PR narrative.
So they hid him.
They shipped him off to Old Town as a toddler, under the guise of being raised by his Hightower family.
But the reality is, they needed him out of King's Landing so the court wouldn't start asking inconvenient questions about genetics and legitimacy.
Alicent justifies it by saying she wanted him raised away from the toxicity and corruption of King's Landing.
Which is a convenient excuse.
And on the surface, I understand that. Look at the absolute psychological train wrecks Aegon and Aemond turned into. She wanted to protect her youngest.
But she didn't save him. She just traded one toxic environment for another.
Aemond is operating like a stage mom on a reality TV show, meticulously grooming this kid for stardom.
It is classical indoctrination. Aemond is telling Daeron, you've been raised right in the light of the Seven. You're a true Hightower. The gods have put you to divine purpose.
Their religious manipulation.
He is inflating Daeron's ego with religious rhetoric, molding him into a weapon that believes it is striking with the fist of God.
But the illusion of that righteousness cracks so quickly. We see the horrific reality of Aemond's occupation.
The incident in the courtyard.
Yes. A Hightower guard, Garrick of White Grove, attempts to assault Cat, who we know is the wife of Hugh Hammer.
Right, from King's Landing.
Cat's brother violently intervenes to protect her, striking the crown soldier, and both men are hauled before Aemond for judgment.
And this is where Aemond performs his theater of justice. He projects the image of the perfectly fair, unbiased ruler.
He acknowledges that his own soldier committed a crime.
And he sentences Garrick to be gelded.
Which is brutal, but to the small folk, it looks like incredible, equitable justice.
Daeron is watching this, and you can see the profound pride in his eyes. He believes his uncle is a just and moral leader.
But it is a psychological trap, because the moment the guard is dragged away, Aemond pivots.
He turns right to Daeron.
He coldly states that while the assault was punished, striking a soldier of the king's army is an act of treason.
And then he gives the order.
He commands this sweet, gentle teenager to take his massive Valyrian steel sword, vigilance, and execute Cat's brother right there in the dirt courtyard.
Daeron's reaction is heartbreaking. He isn't a killer.
He literally begs for a reprieve. He asks Aemond, is mercy not a virtue?
And Aemond's response is chilling. He looks down at them and says, that sounds like something your father would say.
Oh, it made me so mad. It is a master manipulation. He is insulting King Viserys' legacy of peace, framing mercy as a weakness.
And forcing Daeron to prove he is a strong Hightower by committing murder.
And Aemond is such a massive hypocrite. He constantly refers to the Targaryens as a savage race and calls the dragons abominations created by dark Valyrian blood magic.
He clearly hates the Dragon Lords.
Yes. Yet, he is entirely willing to use Daeron's dragon, Tessarion, to execute people and feed the brother's corpse to the beast. He hates the magic, but he loves the power it gives him.
That is the core of Aemond's long-term strategy. He isn't just trying to defeat Rhaenyra.
What do you mean?
He is setting the stage to usurp Aegon and Aemond as well.
Oh, totally.
He views the older brothers as tainted, chaotic products of Targaryen incest and King's Landing corruption. Aemond wants a pure, pliable, religiously indoctrinated Hightower puppet on the Iron Throne.
He is deliberately traumatizing Daeron to break his spirit and ensure total compliance. It is giving me actual chest pain.
It's sad to watch.
Daeron deserves a normal life, and instead he is being forged into a zealot.
But if we want to talk about leaders completely mismanaging their assets and creating PR nightmares, we have to pivot.
Oh, let's head to Dragonstone and King's Landing.
While the Greens are violently establishing order in the Reach, Rhaenyra is actively destroying her own political capital.
Rhaenyra is in her flop era right now, I'm sorry to say.
Her administration is currently in a state of freefall. Let's examine the small council.
It is practically non-existent.
It's just her, Mysaria whispering in her ear, Grandmeister Orwyle trying to avoid eye contact, and whoever happens to wander into the room.
She has isolated herself completely. Corlys Velaryon literally storms out of a meeting.
The Hand of the Queen abandons his post.
He is furious because Rhaenyra flat out refuses to legitimize his bastard sons, Aelin and Adam.
Right.
Corlys tells her, I am the hand, not the mouth, and leaves to go fight Triarchy pirates in the Gullet. And honestly, I fully support Corlys here.
Really? You're on his side?
Yes. The man is grieving his wife, he is grieving his heir, he is providing the entirety of Rhaenyra's naval blockade, and she is stonewalling him over a piece of paper.
Well, her refusal to legitimize them is entirely rooted in her own psychological fragility.
Because of Jason Joffrey.
Exactly. If Rhaenyra signs a royal decree acknowledging that bastards can be elevated and legitimized based on merit or necessity, it draws a massive flashing arrow toward the illegitimate status of her own older sons.
It is her deepest insecurity. But by protecting her ego, she alienates her most powerful ally.
Corlys leaves, but he instructs Aelin to remain and represent the Valyrian fleet.
And Aelin actually ends up giving Rhaenyra the most practical advice she's heard all season.
The cat advice.
Yes. Rhaenyra is standing over King Viserys' massive broken Lego set of old Valyria, lamenting the rats infesting the Red Keep.
And Aelin, with total deadpan sailor energy, just says that on ships, they use cats to solve rat problems.
It is such a brilliant grounding moment.
It highlights the difference between high-born overthinking and low-born pragmatism.
Totally. But Rhaenyra's other council appointments are purely cynical political maneuvering.
We're talking about the Master of Coin.
Yes. Mysaria correctly points out that the crown is facing a severe liquidity crisis. They are out of gold. So Rhaenyra appoints Torrhen Manderly as the new Master of Coin.
The lord who was complaining about the Ratcatcher banquet a few weeks ago.
The very same. Yeah. And she doesn't appoint him because he's good at math. She appoints him entirely as a scapegoat.
It's a strategic move.
She knows she is going to have to drastically raise taxes on the small folk to fund the war effort. By putting a wealthy northern outsider in charge of the treasury, the peasants will blame Manderly for the financial squeeze instead of blaming the queen. It is so manipulative.
I disagree that it's manipulative. It is basic macroeconomic survival in a feudal society.
Explain that to me.
You cannot simply print fiat currency in Westeros. Gold has to be extracted from the populace. When you extract wealth during wartime, you cause inflation and localized famine.
Right.
The anger of the starving underclass will always find a target. The scapegoat mechanism is a fundamental tool of regime preservation. Rhaenyra is actually showing some ruthless political acumen here.
Okay, fine. I'll give her points for economic survival, but I will not give her points for how she is managing the Dragonseeds.
The situation with Ulf the White is reaching critical mass.
Ulf struts into the Red Keep acting like he owns the place. He expects to be treated like high nobility, demanding special favors for his pub buddies, Mua and Clay.
And Rhaenyra immediately shuts him down.
She revokes his pub privileges and confines him to the castle like he's a teenager who missed curfew.
This is where Rhaenyra completely fumbles. From a management perspective, you cannot take a man who has spent 50 years drinking in flea bottom, suddenly hand him the keys to a weapon of mass destruction, and then treat him like a misbehaving toddler.
Okay, wait, I am going to have to stop you there because Rhaenyra is 100% correct in this specific instance.
You think grounding him was smart?
This isn't about snobbery. This is about nuclear non-proliferation protocols.
Nuclear non-proliferation.
Yes. You do not let the guy who controls Silverwing wander drunkenly through a city filled with green loyalists and spies.
He's just going to the pub.
If Ulf gets too drunk and a Hightower sympathizer slips a dagger between his ribs in an alleyway, Rhaenyra loses the dragon. She has to ground him for the operational security of her entire war effort.
Operational security is necessary, I'll give you that, but the execution of that security matters. By locking him in a gloomy castle and scolding him, she breeds resentment.
True, he was very annoyed.
And that resentment immediately boils over. In retaliation for being grounded, Ulf vindictively reveals what he saw in the city.
The graffiti.
The Queen of Bastards graffiti.
The detail on this graffiti is what sent me spiraling. It's not just words scrawled on a wall. Below the text, there are 3 upside-down triangles painted in blue, red, and green.
Which represents the 3 forks of the Trident River.
Yes.
That is the official sigil of House Strong.
It is Harwin Strong's sigil. The graffiti isn't just calling the new Dragonseeds bastards. It is a highly specific, targeted attack mocking the parentage of Rhaenyra's own children.
It is weaponizing the exact insecurity that caused her to reject Corlys earlier that same day.
And Rhaenyra's reaction is catastrophic. This touches her deepest trauma, and she abandons all logic.
Instead of ignoring it or launching a counter-propaganda campaign, she lashes out with sheer state violence.
She deploys the gold cloaks into the streets of King's Landing to violently crack down on the small folk, busting heads and dragging people away to find the culprits.
It is a massive political misstep.
She just spent weeks engineering this brilliant PR campaign, dropping food from the sky, building all this immense goodwill with the starving populace.
And the second her ego is bruised, she sends armed thugs to terrorize the exact people who were just singing her praises.
She is actively burning through her political capital.
Because she fundamentally lacks Mysaria's understanding of the underclass. Rhaenyra still possesses the fragile ego of absolute royalty. When she feels threatened, her default mechanism is force.
It's such a bad look.
History is littered with monarchs who turn their police state against the very populace that welcomed them as liberators. She is losing control of her own narrative because she cannot control her emotions.
She feels her grip slipping, which brings us perfectly to another Targaryen who is desperately lashing out to maintain a sense of control.
Oh, Daemon.
We have to travel to the Vale and check in on Daemon.
Daemon's storyline in the Vale is fascinating because it forces him out of his element. He arrives at the Eyrie, which is a logistical marvel.
It's gorgeous.
It is an impenetrable fortress built high in the mountains, complete with the moon door.
A literal hole in the floor used for executing enemies via gravity. Shout out to the moon door.
Daemon is there to aggressively extort Lady Jane Arryn.
Rhaenyra had promised Lady Jane a formidable dragon to protect the Vale from Vhagar in exchange for her army, but instead of sending a war beast, Rhaenyra sent a tiny, fragile baby dragon.
So Daemon rolls up, attempting to leverage this broken promise to demand a massive payout of gold.
But Lady Jane Arryn is completely unimpressed by his posturing.
She sits high on her weirwood throne, which, by the way, is visually identical to the throne Lysa Arryn occupies in Game of Thrones.
Oh, I loved that detail.
And she absolutely roasts him.
She reminds him that every lord in the Vale knows he murdered his first wife, their kin, Rhea Royce, by bashing her head in with a rock.
She despises him on a cellular level.
But pragmatism wins out, and she pays him the 10,000 gold dragons just to remove him from her presence.
He gets his money, but then the episode delivers this massive emotional gut punch. Caraxes, his dragon, starts acting erratic, sniffing the air.
He senses another apex predator in the mountains.
It's Sheepstealer.
Daemon tracks the scent up to this desolate, rocky outcrop and discovers a filthy, hidden cave. And who does he find huddled inside?
His own daughter, Rhaenyra.
Babes, she has been surviving in the wild. She is covered in mud, she has hacked off her beautiful locks to disguise her identity, and she is living purely on adrenaline and dragon dreams.
It was a very intense scene.
I was deeply emotional watching this. Rhaenyra finally unloads a lifetime of resentment onto him.
She confronts him for his profound parental neglect.
She articulates the pain of being the glass child, the sibling who was completely ignored because she didn't have a dragon egg that hatched.
She tells him she felt like a disappointment her entire life.
And now that she finally has a dragon, she is paralyzed by guilt and terror.
Her psychological burden is immense right now. She feels directly responsible for the death of her stepbrother Jace at the Battle of the Gullet.
Because her one sworn duty was to stay on that ship and protect her younger brothers on their voyage to Pentos.
Instead, the lure of claiming Sheepstealer was too strong. She abandoned her post, and Jace died.
She flat out refuses to go back to Rhaenyra and look her in the eye.
And here is where Daemon actually shocked me.
I know. For the first time in his life, he looks at his daughter and acts like a father.
He doesn't yell at her.
He sees how fundamentally broken she is under the weight of that guilt, and he agrees to protect her. He agrees to commit active treason against his queen to shield his child.
It is a significant character pivot, but executed in the most chaotic, classic Daemon way possible.
Of course.
He needs to cover Rhaenyra's tracks, so what does he do?
He finds some random, unfortunate shepherd, chops off his head, chars it with fire, and literally drops it onto the small council table in King's Landing.
Loudly claiming he neutralized the rogue rider of Sheepstealer.
He attempts to solve a complex diplomatic crisis with a decapitation.
But the lie is so fragile.
Mysaria takes one look at him and the charred remains, and she instantly clocks the deception. As they walk out of the room, she quietly asks, "Whose head is that?"
How long can a lie of this magnitude hold?
Not long at all.
It is a ticking time bomb. Rhaenyra believes her youngest sons are safely in Pentos with Rhaenyra. Eventually, word is going to reach the capital that the princes arrived without their protector.
When Rhaenyra realizes Daemon chose his daughter's secret over the safety of the heirs to the throne, the fallout will be catastrophic.
Daemon is building a house of cards, but it is nothing compared to the psychological prison being constructed in the Riverlands.
Oh, Harrenhal.
We have to talk about the ruins of Harrenhal because Ser Criston Cole and Gwaine Hightower have finally arrived.
They march their army into the cursed castle, expecting to reinforce Aemond and Vhagar, only to find the massive fortress entirely abandoned.
The atmosphere is thick with dread.
The scorched stones, the eerie sound of a solitary bleeding goat echoing through the courtyard. It is classic Gothic horror.
And then Alice Rivers just materializes out of the shadows like a literal ghost.
It's giving major haunted house vibes.
Alice is operating on an entirely different intellectual plane than anyone else in that courtyard. She is manipulating them effortlessly.
Did you see her new necklace?
We see she is wearing a new pendant, a single dark gem set in overlapping metal that distinctly resembles the wing of a barn owl.
She even refers to herself as a barn owl.
This is a massive lore connection, tying directly back to Queen Helena's prophetic drawings of a barn owl at Harrenhal.
Alice is a master troll. She calmly informs Gwaine and Criston that Aemond received word of Rhaenyra taking King's Landing, and he simply fled on Vhagar to regroup.
Which we, the audience, know is a total fabrication, because we ended the last episode watching Aemond bleeding out at her feet.
So what is she actually doing?
Let's apply some systems theory to Alice Rivers. I don't think she is just a witch. She is operating like a systems administrator who has gained control of a proprietary algorithm.
Okay, nerdy. I like it.
Aemond is the user interface, and Vhagar is the WMD. Elise doesn't need to know how to ride a dragon. She just needs to control the fragile ego of the boy who does.
By keeping Aemond locked in a basement, heavily medicated with weirwood paste and psychological manipulation.
She gains exclusive admin rights to the most destructive force in the world. She wants to rule Harrenhal, and controlling Aemond guarantees her sovereignty.
Gwaine hears that Aemond is gone and reacts with the only logical military strategy available,
which is to leave immediately.
He says King's Landing is lost, Aegon is presumed dead, they need to immediately march south to Tumbleton and merge their forces with his cousin, Ormond Hightower.
But Criston Cole...
Babes, Criston Cole is in a full, terminal, suicidal honor spiral.
Criston flatly refuses to retreat. He orders his exhausted, terrified men to dig in.
He outlines an insane plan to wage a guerrilla war against the massive, unified Riverlands army that is currently marching south.
He admits they are outnumbered 20-1, but uses this flowery, absurd metaphor, claiming they will strike like the scorpion does the ox.
He is literally acting like a dramatic ex-boyfriend who intentionally drives his car into a ditch just to make a point about how much pain he's in.
I know you want to write him off as just pathetic, but let's take that a step further. This is the total collapse of his ideological framework.
How so?
Criston built his entire identity around the concept of honor and moral superiority. Now he has betrayed his vows, failed to protect his king at Rook's Rest, and realizes his honor was always a myth.
He is experiencing terminal cognitive dissonance.
That is an excellent psychological read. He cannot endure the quiet reflection of a long march to Tumbleton. If he stops fighting, he has to sit with his own guilt.
So he is externalizing his trauma.
He is engineering a scenario where he can die a pure death in battle, and he is entirely willing to drag hundreds of innocent foot soldiers to the slaughter just to facilitate his own martyrdom.
It is deeply selfish. But while Criston is actively seeking death, the king he failed to protect is desperately fighting for life. Let's catch up with Aegon and Larys Strong, who are slowly hobbling their way toward the coastal ruins of Rook's Rest.
The irony of their journey is thick. Aegon is heavily disguised, wrapped in cloaks to hide his horrific burns.
Larys is managing their cover story and hilariously introduces Aegon to a group of mercenaries under the alias Gregor.
Which is a brutal Easter egg, naming this frail, broken, crying boy after Gregor Clegane, the mountain who rides.
It is so humbling. The literal king of the Andals and the First Men is reduced to shoveling raw sewage out of latrines.
And kissing the muddy boot of a low-born mercenary just to maintain his cover and avoid detection.
It is the absolute lowest we have ever seen him, but then they stumble upon the battlefield.
They find the massive golden body of Sunfire.
And the local opportunists have turned the site of a royal tragedy into a literal roadside attraction.
They are charging peasants a copper penny to stroke the dragon's scales and a half-groat if they want to climb up and mount the beast.
It is a grotesque display of capitalism overriding reverence.
It really is.
I was hyperventilating during this scene. Aegon, despite his excruciating pain, drags himself over to this massive, seemingly lifeless body.
He collapses against the golden scales, buries his face in the dragon's neck, and just sobs.
And that is when he realizes the dragon is still breathing.
He whispers to Larys that he can hear the massive heart slowly beating inside the chest cavity.
The entire realm, including the Green's own small council, has declared Sunfire dead.
That the magical blood-bound connection between a Valyrian rider and his dragon is profoundly resilient.
I spiraled so hard over this moment. Aegon is, by all objective metrics, a terrible person. He is a bully and a tyrant.
Unquestionably.
But his love for Sunfire is the single pure thing in his life. His mother uses him, his brother tried to murder him, his grandfather manipulated him. Sunfire is the only entity in the world that loves Aegon unconditionally.
That fizzle anchor of the dragon breathing beneath him gives him the will to keep going.
It is a vital setup for his eventual return to power.
He has found his anchor in the wild. Meanwhile, back in the manicured gardens of the Red Keep, the anchors of succession are being completely upended by whispered conversations.
Oh, the Red Keep whispers. Alicent and Rhaenyra have another one of their secret, deeply stressful rendezvous.
And Alicent casually drops the intel about Aemond Hightower being sensitive to smells.
It's like she's feeding Rhaenyra the cheat code to defeat a video game boss. Just throw some stink bombs at the Hightower army, bestie. He'll completely fold.
It shows where Alicent's loyalties truly lie when pushed. But the real structural bombshell occurs when Alicent returns to her chambers.
Yes. She is observing her daughter, Helaena, who is holding little Princess Jaehaera. The camera lingers, and Alicent realizes Helaena is pregnant.
It's a huge reveal.
I screamed at my television, a secret pregnancy. For months, the fandom assumed the showrunners were entirely cutting Mailer, the third child from the books, out of the narrative. But nope, Mailer the Missing is officially in play.
The geopolitical implications of this pregnancy are staggering.
Obviously, it creates a massive hurdle for Rhaenyra's claim, as it provides the Greens with another male heir to rally around.
But more importantly, it detonates Aemond Hightower's master plan in Tumbleton.
Exactly. Aemond is putting all his chips on Daeron. He wants to bypass Aegon and Aemond to crown this pliable kid.
But if Aegon suddenly has a true-born infant son, Daeron is legally pushed much further down the line of succession.
Aemond can't justify crowning an uncle over a true-born son without inciting a secondary civil war within his own faction.
The succession line is a complete tangled mess. Everyone is plotting against their own family, and chaos reigns supreme.
Which brings us perfectly into our first analytical segment for the week, the Iron Throne Power Rankings.
Let's get into it. We're ranking the major players this week based on 4 strict criteria: political strategy, leadership, survival instincts, and chaos level.
I am so ready for this. You want to lead?
I will lead. Politically, I am awarding the #1 spot to Lord Aemond Hightower. It is a masterclass in ruthless efficiency.
I'm going to have to stop you right there. I completely reject the idea that his strategy is a 10. I argued it earlier, and I will argue it again.
Let me make my case. Look at the board. He captured a vital strategic city without risking a dragon fight. He embedded his troops in civilian infrastructure, completely neutralizing Rhaenyra's air superiority.
Okay, but
He is actively grooming a highly pliable dragon-riding heir in Daeron, and he is maintaining strict, brutal discipline among his infantry. His strategy is flawless.
it is fundamentally flawed because it relies entirely on terror. He is creating a massive mutiny risk.
Terror is a valid medieval tactic.
By executing the brother of a woman who was assaulted by his own guard, he isn't inspiring loyalty, he is inspiring a violent insurgency. The small folk in Tumbleton are going to start poisoning the water supply.
That's hypothetical.
A human shield tactic only works until the shield decides to stab you in the back. His strategy is a house of cards.
Fair pushback regarding long-term stability, but his short-term gains are undeniable. Let's look at survival instincts. I am giving a perfect score of 100 to Larys Strong.
Larys the Roach, he is the ultimate survivor.
He is. He dragged a critically burned monarch across a war-torn country, managed to infiltrate a literal refugee camp without being detected, and is patiently biding his time while his enemies exhaust themselves.
True.
His chaos level is practically 0 right now. He is operating entirely off the radar. Contrast that with Mysaria. She is sitting in the capital, whispering in the queen's ear. She architected the Master of Coin's scapegoat plan. High strategy, low chaos.
I agree on Larys and Mysaria, but we have to talk about Daemon.
Daemon.
His chaos level is breaking the scale. He's extorting high ladies, lying directly to his queen, and dropping charred heads on tables.
But weirdly, his survival instincts are finally kicking in, because he recognized that protecting Rhaenyra requires extreme calculated deception.
Daemon is the ultimate wildcard variable in this war. He ranks high on chaos, low on cohesive strategy, but his survival instinct has gone purely feral.
Honestly, they are all psychological disasters.
Which leads us seamlessly into segment 2. Who needs a therapist?
The objective answer is all of them, but we have limited clinical hours. We are prescribing mandatory, intensive psychiatric intervention for the characters who suffered the most profound psychological damage this week.
I am officially advocating for a court-mandated locked-door family therapy session for the entire Targaryen dynasty.
A group session. Good luck with that.
But if I have to isolate one individual, it is Daeron, my sweet, auburn-haired boy. He is quite literally a child.
He is.
He started his day holding a towel for his eccentric uncle, and by sunset he had been gaslit by a religious fanatic into slicing open a man's chest with a broadsword.
The clinical term is coercive control. Aemond is systematically breaking down Daeron's natural empathy in order to rebuild him as a remorseless instrument of the state.
It is textbook cult indoctrination. Daeron needs immediate deprogramming from a specialist.
But my top candidate for acute psychiatric intervention is Ser Criston Cole.
Oh, throw him in a padded cell and throw away the key.
We discussed his cognitive dissonance earlier. The man is trapped in a terminal suicidal honor spiral. He cannot emotionally process his own guilt over the cascading failures of his life.
His broken vows with Rhaenyra, his failed protection of Helena, his disastrous failure at Rook's Rest.
Exactly. Because he lacks the emotional vocabulary to process shame, he is externalizing it as a tactical military decision. He wants to die, but his ego requires it to look like a heroic sacrifice.
It is profound psychological dysfunction that is going to get hundreds of men killed.
Yeah.
He needs the therapist to just hold up a mirror and say, Criston, your trauma does not necessitate a body count.
Exactly.
And then there is Aegon. Babes. Aegon scooping human waste and weeping into the neck of a half-dead dragon in a forest. He needs intensive trauma therapy, burn victim support groups, and a dedicated life coach just to learn how to exist without lashing out.
Aegon is beyond clinical salvation. Honestly, they are all beyond saving. There isn't a therapist in Westeros or our world who wouldn't evaluate these people, immediately prescribe a heavy dose of milk of the poppy, and walk straight into the narrow sea.
You are hopelessly cynical. I believe in the power of healing. But speaking of existing in this nightmare universe, let's play our favorite hypothetical game, Segment 3. If we lived in Westeros.
The rapid-fire lifestyle debate. Question 1. Based on the current political climate, which noble house would you actually want to belong to?
See, my heart always leans toward a loyalist faction. I would want to be a Valyrian.
A Valyrian.
I love the ocean. I love the high-stakes naval drama. I want to be standing on the deck of a massive galleon with Corlys, feeling the sea breeze in my hair, controlling the trade routes.
You get motion sickness on the Staten Island ferry. You would be violently seasick within 5 minutes of leaving Driftmark.
I would simply invent medieval Dramamine.
Let me have my fantasy. Who are you picking?
I am prioritizing sheer geographical isolation. Give me the Tyrells in Highgarden or the Arryns up in the Eyrie.
The Eyrie?
Yes, it is literally impenetrable by ground forces. I want to sit in a reinforced tower, drink vintage Arbor Gold, and watch the peasants slaughter each other from a safe, comfortable distance of several thousand feet. Okay, isolationist coward. Question 2. If you had the blood of old Valyria, which dragon would you hope to claim?
I would choose Tessarion, the Blue Queen.
Oh, interesting. Why?
She is aesthetically beautiful, she is incredibly fast and nimble in the air, and she is fiercely protective of her rider. Furthermore, she's young. She isn't a massive, lumbering target like Vhagar. You can actually hide Tessarion if you need to retreat.
I respect the tactical choice, but I want Caraxes.
The Blood Noodle?
I know he's a weird, long, noodle boy, and he squeaks like a rusty hinge, but he's terrifyingly fierce. Nobody in their right mind challenges the Blood Worm. Although, seeing Sheepstealer in that cave, I kind of love the feral, muddy, unbothered vibe. Just a wild king eating mutton in the mountains.
Which brings us to question 3. If you were born into this chaos, would you actively chase the Iron Throne or quietly disappear into the countryside?
Oh, I would disappear immediately, 100%. Give me a quiet pastoral cottage in the Riverlands. Let me grow cabbages.
The Riverlands? Are you fundamentally insane?
What's wrong with the Riverlands?
That is literally the worst possible geographic location to exist during a continental war. It is a flat, undefended expanse that serves as a constant highway for invading armies. They will burn your cabbage farm to the ground every alternate Tuesday.
Okay, wait, you raise an excellent logistical point. The Riverlands are a war zone. Maybe Dorne?
Better.
Dorne seems warm, they have great wine, and they actively mind their own business. I just want to exist in a climate-controlled environment and avoid being incinerated.
Which perfectly sets up the final question.
Yeah.
Given your lack of survival skills, how long would you realistically survive?
I have to be completely honest with myself. I couldn't handle the emotional toll of unpacking my suitcase this week. If I got a splinter in Westeros, I would succumb to an aggressive staph infection by Tuesday. 3 days, maximum.
I give myself 1 month.
A month. That's generous.
I would survive the initial outbreak of violence by hiding in a cellar. But eventually, the sheer absurdity of the feudal system would break me. My sarcasm would inevitably offend a passing hedge knight with a fragile ego, and I'd be run through with a broadsword over a misunderstood joke.
You totally would. We are not genetically or emotionally built for this era.
We really aren't. We belong on our modern rooftops with our burden smashes.
But let's look ahead to the future we won't survive to see. Segment 4. Dragon-sized predictions.
It is time to lay our cards on the table. What is your biggest overarching prediction for the rest of the season?
My biggest prediction is rooted in military hubris. I believe the Rivermen are going to completely ambush Criston Cole's suicide squad.
Oh, the scorpion and the ox.
Cole thinks he is going to fight this noble, tactical guerrilla war in the woods, but he has no idea who he's dealing with. I think the Winter Wolves and the Riverlords are going to absolutely decimate his forces before he even has time to draw his sword.
I like the tactical probability of that. My biggest prediction leans into the supernatural. I predict that Alice Rivers is going to ride Rhaegar.
Wait, what? Explain the mechanics of that immediately.
Think about the algorithm metaphor we discussed earlier. Alice has Aemond completely under her psychological spell. She's a confirmed magic user. If she can fully control the mind of the rider, she essentially controls the dragon by proxy.
Oh my God.
I think we are going to see a scenario where a witch is functionally commanding the biggest nuclear weapon in the world.
That is a terrifying escalation of stakes. Okay, what about the biggest betrayal coming next?
It has to be Ulf the White.
You think so?
Absolutely. Rhaenyra grounded him, she publicly humiliated him, and she treats him like a dangerous prisoner rather than a valued asset. Ulf is motivated entirely by greed and status.
He just wants to go to the pub.
The exact second the Greens managed to smuggle an envoy to him, offering a lordship, a bag of gold, and free reign of the taverns, he's going to turn Silverwing against Rhaenyra without a second thought.
I hate that your sociological read on him is probably entirely accurate. For my biggest betrayal, I think Daemon's fragile lie in the veil is going to detonate.
The fake head.
My Mysaria already knows that Charred Head was a fake. She is going to whisper that intel directly into Rhaenyra's ear. And the true betrayal isn't going to be Daemon actively moving against Rhaenyra. It's going to be Rhaenyra violently turning on Daemon when she realizes he prioritized his daughter's secret over the security of her crown.
The marital tension is going to reach critical mass. Moving on, which character is most likely to surprise everyone?
Rhaenyra. Everyone writes her off as the weird, dreamy sister who just stares at bugs and makes cryptic prophecies.
And she's pregnant now.
Exactly. She knows her unborn child, Maelor, is a massive political target, and she commands a massive dragon, Dreamfire. I think we are going to see Mama Bear Helaena snap out of her dissociative state and take actual physical, violent action to protect her child.
I would genuinely love to see Helaena exercise some agency. My surprise character is Daeron.
Oh, baby Daeron.
I think Aemond is pushing the indoctrination too hard, too fast. Daeron was actively weeping when he was forced to execute that man. I think Daeron is going to snap, but not in the compliant way Aemond expects.
You think he'll rebel?
I think the trauma will cause Daeron to turn Targaryen directly on Aemond himself in an act of violent rebellion.
Babes, from your lips to the old god's ears, I would stand up and cheer. Okay, to close this out, give me your one completely chaotic theory that somehow feels entirely possible.
Are you ready for this? Lord Ormond's scent box is slowly poisoning him.
Oh my God. Wait.
Look at the evidence. He is holding that pomander to his face constantly, inhaling deeply. He is having massive unhinged outbursts, hacking at wooden tables with his sword, making increasingly erratic decisions.
That's true. He's totally unstable.
What if a political rival in Old Town, perhaps a maester who fears the rising power of the High Towers, laced that incense with a slow-acting neurotoxin? They are intentionally driving him insane to ensure he self-destructs before he can consolidate too much power.
That is brilliant. We know the Maesters historically despise magic and dragons. Maybe they hate the High Towers getting too big for their britches too. It's a silent assassination.
What is your chaotic theory?
Alice Rivers is pregnant with Aemond's child.
Oh, wow.
She is keeping him locked up, not just to control Harrenhal, but to secure royal Valyrian blood for herself in order to perform some apocalyptic blood magic ritual.
the witch baby scenario.
Yeah.
I can completely see the narrative going there. This universe is certainly dark enough to support it.
It really is. And on that incredibly dark, blood magic-infused note, we have to start wrapping this up. But before we turn it over to you, the Snark Squad, I want to leave you with a provocative thought to chew on for the rest of the week.
Consider the underlying motivations of everyone we discussed today. Are any of these major players actually fighting for the Iron Throne because they possess a genuine ideological desire to rule and improve the realm?
Probably not.
Or are they all just desperately, tragically acting out in an attempt to win the retroactive approval of the toxic parents and guardians who raised them? Think about it. Rhaenyra is paralyzed by Viserys' legacy. Daeron is being molded by Ormond. Aelin is dealing with Corlys's projection.
Even Rhaenyra is just trying to get Daemon to finally look at her. It is all just profound daddy issues playing out on a continental scale.
It really is.
If these families had access to basic cognitive behavioral therapy, the entire Dance of the Dragons could have been prevented with a few localized boundary-setting exercises.
It really is a tragedy of untreated generational trauma.
But, Snark Squad, we want to hear from you. Slide into our comments, hit us up on socials. If you were dropped into the absolute nightmare that is Westeros today, which noble house would you genuinely try to join?
Which dragon would you attempt to claim? Are you team massive, slow war beast, or are you looking for a speedy, agile little noodle dragon?
And most importantly, after analyzing all the betrayals, the PR disasters, and the sheer incompetence we've seen this week, who do you think ultimately deserves to sit on the Iron Throne? Is there even a morally viable option left on the board?
We want to read all your unhinged hot takes. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, sipping bourbons and spiraling over this absolute mess of a kingdom.
We love you guys so much. Remember to hit subscribe wherever you're listening. Leave us a 5-star review because it truly helps us grow the community. And share this with another fantasy-loving babe who desperately needs to vent about James Norton's aggressive bath time power moves.
Until next week, keep your dragons well-fed, your small councils fully staffed, and trust absolutely no one.
Stay fiery, stay chaotic, and we'll see you on the Stark side.